Hi there, Derek here from Pacific Coast Auto, and welcome to a very special cast here where we have 6 people to answer the questions. And mostly it's going to be myself and special guest here, James Potts.
Hi.
And some of you might know James because for about a year or so,
Yeah, about the last year.
he was doing emails for the company, and now it turns out that he is too busy. In fact, at this moment he's in Japan and so can't answer the questions, and has come here for a little bit of a vacation with a bunch of friends who are all in the back, who you may see from time to time. Or is everybody hiding? That's my daughter there, the one that's goofy faced. She's 9 years old and has an extra dose of craziness courtesy of her dad. And so we got questions on here. We were actually going to read them off of the internet, but then that ended up taking too long to find good questions. And so please, anyone who has a question, please put them in the comment section, because this week was a little bit dry. And part of the reason for that was because I posted a couple of videos about selling my car. So if you haven't checked out those videos, please do. Pretty interesting pretty interesting videos of me trying to sell my car and failing to do so. And so this is new news to anyone who's watching, but somebody offered to buy my car off of me, and I believe that sale is going to go through. And so somebody from this channel decided to send me an email and say, I'd like to buy your car off of you. So that's pretty cool. We don't have a lot of time, and so we're going to jump right into the questions right away. And so let me just set this up and not crash at the same time. This is how we make professional videos here. Okay, and actually we're going to co-answer the questions here. And so if my answer is too stupid, you can just look towards James for a better answer.
Justin Noker says, I want to ask a question, but I don't know what to ask really. So do you want a Coca-Cola truck, Derek?
This is a funny question because I don't know what a Coca-Cola truck is. Do you know what a Coca-Cola truck is?
A truck that delivers Coke, I would guess.
If that's the answer.
Special in Japan?
If that's the answer, then the answer is yes. Or if that's the question, the answer is yes. I do want a Coca-Cola truck. Next question.
BTB Bowler says, hi Derek, are there a lot of Nissan 300 ZXs being imported to the States, or are there not many because they were also a USDM car?
Okay, this is an interesting question. James, do you want to try answering this? Or do you want to pass?
No, I got a comment, I guess.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it was pretty much sold in the same, if not a better trim level in the States. The turbos were a steel turbine instead of a ceramic, like the JDM version was.
Why did they do that?
Well, in this case, it was because the car sold in Japan was limited in horsepower due to the gentleman's agreement, but when they brought it to the USA, it had to compete against a lot of the American muscle cars of the early 90s. Well, depending on your opinion, you may say that there are or aren't any, but they were able to remove the limiter that the Japanese market set, put on better turbos, give it a better ECU, and it made a fair bit more horsepower, and the turbos were more reliable for the kind of driving on open roads that North America would have.
And I think that's probably the biggest point. The extra power for sure for a marketing standpoint, but ceramic turbos aren't good for more than about 150,000 kilometers. And here in Japan, it's pretty rare that cars reach that mileage. And in the States, it's almost certain that a car will reach that mileage. And so the stronger turbos are a big plus for the US market. And the exact same thing happened to the Supra too. It got steel turbos in the US and 320 horsepower instead of 280. But we all know that Japanese manufacturers fudged their numbers in the 90s. You know, they say 280, but really it's 300 or 320 for most of those high horsepower cars. How about are they a popular export? I guess, I mean, you handle emails. Do you get a lot of people?
A few people have asked about them, but there hasn't been a lot of action on them because bang for the buck, you can get one used in the States. And again, it's got better turbos on it and a better ECU, left-hand drive, because some people in the USA are still opposed to right-hand drive. It's not quite as common in the United States as it is in Canada at this point.
But it's not JDM tight, yo.
Well, this is true. So yeah, the market for them, this stage would be for the people that need the right-hand drive for the wow factor. And yeah, you can get a great car for a fairly decent price. But does it compare to the North American one? Well, that's really up to whether you're going to be doing a bunch of performance work to it and replacing the weaker links. So
That's a good point.
Could be good and work in your favor. It could be better to just get a Skyline and really be a showstopper, because everyone knows what a 300ZX looks like.
Okay, a couple of comments there. The Fairlady is about half the price of a GTR, so there is that.
Well, that is true.
But something that a lot of people don't realize is that the Fairlady isn't very available here in Japan. Compared to the Skyline GTR, there are about 5 to 1, maybe even higher than that, of Skylines to Fairladies, because the Fairlady was never a car that Japanese people wanted to hold on to, and much of the reason for that is because the engine. Do you know the engine code of that?
Offhand, no.
I know it, but my mind's drawing a blank at the moment.
A 3-liter V6.
Yeah, 3-liter twin-turbo V6. It does not have good aftermarket support, and a lot of people kind of shunned that car compared to the Skyline for performance driving. And so because of that, they didn't last very long here in Japan. My phone's sliding around on the floor. And so finding a good one can be a little bit challenging, especially a twin-turbo, especially one with T-bar roof.
With spare parts and servicing with Japan market-only cars when they are exported?
This is a good question for James, because James lives in Canada, and so he can kind of answer the question about, because you've had a number. How many JDM cars have you had?
Oh, I think we're up to 8 or 9 now.
Okay.
Yeah, it really depends on the car itself. You know, if you, in the case of a lot of the Subarus, like you got the 2-liter twin turbo in the Legacy or the WRX single turbo, they use the same water pump and timing belt as the 2.5-liter non-turbo that the North American market got. So there are parts that interchange if you do your homework. You can't just walk into you know, your local parts store, the dealership, and say, you know, I've got a Japanese model, whatever. They'll just look at you sideways and laugh because they don't have a listing for it. The parts may be compatible, it may be the exact same part number, but you need to do your own legwork on which parts are actually going to bolt up to your engine.
And this is where forums really come in, because a lot of people in the communities for importing cars, they know all these things already, or they're in the active process of trying to figure it out. And so if you do buy a JDM car, you're a little bit of a fringe buyer compared to, you know, the regular person who wants to buy a Camry, or even the regular sports car enthusiast. And because of that, you know, you have to get your information, you know, more as a hobby instead of, you know, just going to the auto parts store, as you said. A lot of cars do interchange parts. The exception to that is really the cars that weren't available in any form in the USA. But, you know, if you import these cars, you have to kind of understand that as a problem. Actually, one of the guys in the back, you're supposed to wave here. One of the guys in the back owns a Pajero, thank you, and has had a Pajero for, I think, 4 or 5 years in Canada. You can answer this one with yes or no question. Is it hard to get parts for your Pajero?
No, I haven't had any trouble, really.
His car didn't break, and so that's a good part about Japanese cars, is because they don't break as often, I guess. That's a weird bus, hey?
Oh yeah. Faded into the
They share the same engine and platform as other popular cars.
I'm not really going to answer that because we already did.
Hitchsan says, hi.
Wait, which way are we going here? Left or right?
Let's go left for now. Let's try left.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look at the map.
By the way, we're driving around Mount Fuji, like literally right around Mount Fuji. We're doing laps. Loser laps of Fuji.
Derek, how much does a manual JZX 100 cost? And are there any difference in price between the Chaser Mark II and Cresta?
We wanted to go right there?
No, we went the right way.
Oh, phew. That's different for me.
Thumbs up.
You're not allowed to laugh when my jokes aren't funny, though. Otherwise, this guy just sound like there's an applause button in the back. And press the, here, I'll honk the horn when I want you guys to laugh at me, okay?
No.
It didn't work.
No.
Okay, the JZX100, whether you get an auto or a manual transmission, depends a lot on the price. Autos can be anywhere between like 150,000 yen to about 250,000 yen at the most. But a manual will cost you anywhere from about 600,000 to 1.2 million yen. And so they are super expensive in manual transmission version. And that's part of the reason why you see so many of them converted from an automatic to a manual, is because the price is a lot more. Now, if you do the conversion, then the price is actually less than an original 5-speed. And so there is that, but there may be some sort of problems running one that has had its transmission switched, such as computer problems. A lot of them have like the TCS, or traction control light on the dashboard, or some other quirky problem. And you might have trouble with parts, because you don't know when the swap was done, which parts from the manual transmission were contained and which ones are from the automatic transmission. And so it does confuse things a little bit. So they're really expensive cars. Is there a difference in price between them? Well, the Cresta is the most grandfatherly of them all, and so in stock form, that one tends to be the cheapest, but only by about 5% or so. And so really there is no difference in the price, I would say. The Chaser and the Mark II are about the same. Some people prefer the Chaser and some people prefer the Mark II. And this road is really nice.
Yeah,
It looks like it was recently repaved. Okay.
Rodolfo Asensio says, "Hi Derek, which other country would you like to visit and why?"
I'm going to throw this one to you, James. You've been to Japan like 4 or 5 times now?
Trip number 4.
Okay, 4 times. So you've been here a lot, and I've been here a lot too because I live here. And so what other country would you like to visit besides Japan?
Well, just to interject here, it's kind of ironic that you've lived here full time for about a decade almost, and I think I've seen more of the country than you have at this stage.
I don't know, but that's part of kind of living in a country. You don't do the touristy style things, especially, when you've got 2 businesses and 3 kids, and 1 kid has disabilities, and, as light of a disability as he has, it still prevents you from doing certain things that you could with people his age. So it's like having an extra baby in the family.
As far as other countries I'd like to visit, well, I really want to go to Germany because, I've bought Japanese cars a few times, but I'd really like to get some right from Germany because you get a lot of the Volkswagen and Audi diesel cars that never made it to Japan. I'm a big TDI nerd. I love making the diesel Jettas go really fast and make a lot of noise and smoke in some cases, but
that's funny you talk about that right now with what's going on with Volkswagen and their emissions.
Well, yeah.
If you're watching this video in the future, then that basically happened about a month ago with Volkswagen and their emissions lying.
Yeah. A lot of my travel priorities are based around the food I can eat, and I like trying new foods, so I'll basically go anywhere that I can get a good meal.
Can I ask you a question right now?
Sure.
A lot of people have asked me, what's your favorite Japanese food? And look at me, I'm not the kind of guy who really enjoys eating. And so could you answer that?
I'm a big fan of sushi, sashimi. Takoyaki is great at any time of night. We had some last night that was great. Ramen's good. I could go on forever. This is really an open question.
Right. How about Japanese snacks? Because that's been asked a number of times. What weird Japanese snacks do you like?
Dried shredded squid, if you can find it.
Excuse me? That was nothing?
Yeah. I like weird things.
Sarah likes that, my daughter. And Sean and my cat, but then he vomits it up afterwards, so we don't let him eat it anymore.
Yeah. I'll basically try anything once. They had this fish sausage I had at the convenience store, and I think it was cheese. I couldn't really tell, but I still ate it. It's good.
Very nice. We got a little bit off track. I'm going to answer which country I'd like to go to.
It's about you. So, where do you want to go?
For me, it's I would really like to go to Germany as well, and a big part of that is the car culture, because Germany is basically Germany and Japan, and some might argue America. Certainly they had a big part in it, but those are the big countries for automotive, especially performance cars, and so hands down it would have to be Germany. I also really am into history and heritage, and only recently got into it, and so I'm years and years behind most people who are enthusiasts of that sort of thing, but I think it would be really interesting to go there and just suck it all up like a sponge. And my ideal trip would be to land anywhere in Europe, buy a car, like a really cheap car, and just go to as many countries as I can throughout Europe in my own car without any guided tours or anything. Just meet people, meet the real people instead of the touristy type things. Like today we were at Mount Fuji and we met an old Miyagi-san taking pictures of Mount Fuji, and
yeah, he was set up there on the side of the road waiting for hours for the moon to come to just the right point. So that's dedication.
Right, it was 3:30 when we got there, and he's like, the best time of day is 5 o'clock to get this picture. So he's waiting there for an hour and a half for the moon to come out so he can take his specialty picture there. Kind of funny. I realize we're going to go over time here, and so almost guaranteed this video is going to cut off before we're done, so we'll try to speed it up a little bit.
As the Definition 3 says, what business does your wife do? Also, you always keep mentioning about how your company doesn't make huge profits. What is limiting your profits and what is costing you so much?
This question could go on for a long time, but I'm going to keep it as simple as possible because the answer is a little bit dry. Okay, so the two questions. My wife owns a small English school that teaches in the afternoon to children. And then she's opening up a preschool from next April, providing we can get the right talent in order to work that position. We've made some offers to 2 people who've turned it down for various reasons, and the third person we're still waiting on an answer for that. But it really has to be the right candidate for us, and so it is a difficult decision. Why is my business not profitable? That question could go on for an hour and a half or 2 hours, and it's just going to sound like me complaining, and so I don't want to sound like I'm complaining. The basics of it are that I put honesty in the way of sheer profits, and I want to run a business in the way that is a company that I would like to purchase from, instead of one that puts profits as the number one. And so to my customers who ever have an issue, I really want to help them out as much as I can. That is not to say that I can every time, because we still have to be in business. I still have to pay for clothing for Sarah and this car that I'm driving, and so there is a trade-off there. Another side of that is the fact that in Japan, the system for this type of company makes it so that unless you're a Japanese person and unless you have connections in the industry, it's very difficult for you to get your full membership to all of the auction houses. They mandate that you must own land, and you have to be guaranteed by someone else in Japan who also owns land, and so it's basically a rich people continue to get rich and the poor people can't get into the market. There are barriers to entry that are artificially imposed, I would think. Because certainly, like, our business has been in business for 6 years, but I just happen to not know somebody who owns land who will sign for me. And people in Japan are notoriously not welcome to sign for someone else, because once you sign, you're in it for life. There's no way to unsign. And so it is a bit of a problem, especially for foreigners, because banks won't give you loans, and most organizations that do this sort of thing for companies that don't have a lot of connections, they won't handle things for foreigners, and so there is that. And so per sale, we are less profitable than most companies, but our sales are going up in volume really big at the moment. We're making enough money to survive and grow, and so I'm very satisfied with where we are. Left or right?
Left.
Okay.
SP has 3 questions. Number 1, are any versions of the Stadia importable to America?
No.
Number 2, what are the current rates for all importable versions of the Skyline GTR?
Typically we're seeing prices for a worthwhile GTR. Total cost landed in the States, expect to spend realistically between 18 to, what would you say, 24,000 US dollars?
It varies a lot. It depends on the level of car that you're looking for. If you're just looking for a GTR and it's not on your agenda to get one of the best ones, then you're looking at about 15 to 20.
That sounds about right.
If you go below 15, you can, but there's very likely chance you'll get unknown mileage, rust, high mileage, or engine problems. And so that's just a fact of matter. If you're looking for one of the best ones, prices go up. Almost sky's the limit. You're looking at $35,000 to $40,000 on the very high end, and everywhere else in between. Low mileage really dictates the price more than the condition does, and so if you are looking for one with, for example, 30,000 original kilometers, which is like 18,000 miles or so, then you're going to pay through the nose. You're going to have to chop off all of your limbs and then sell them, unless you were super rich all your life, not like me.
Or otherwise. 3. Are you hiring for digital media? If so, I'm interested.
This is a good question, actually, because I mentioned in one of my casts earlier that we have an intention to open a new channel next year to focus on entertainment videos, not just videos that have to do with my company. And so certainly we may in the future be looking for something like that, but for the next at least 2 years, that's not on the horizon. If you do want to work for us doing that sort of thing, what I suggest that you do is make a short video of yourself and what sort of things that you could do for my company. In particular, if you are into editing, I'd like to see a video that can showcase some of your editing skills. It doesn't have to be directed specifically to my company, but certainly it has more credibility if it does. And send that to me, and that's easy for me to keep on file, and it shows a lot of what you can do, and so it'd be a good video to see.
Farmus13 says, Derek, what is a better car in your opinion? The BE5 B4 or JZX100 or 110?
Let me just explain. The BE5 is a sedan version of the Legacy, made from 1998 until 2000 something, 2003, 2004. Yeah. Twin turbo, EJ20 boxer engine, and they sell for roughly manual transmission, 250,000 yen. The other one is, there were actually two cars, the JZX100. They are importable to Canada. They started in 98 and they went until, I don't know, roughly about the same time. And they are 600,000 to 1.2 million, and so 2 to 3 times the cost. The 110 is not importable yet, but they are from next year. The 110s are all ugly, and I think the 100s actually cost more, but I haven't looked at the price, so I don't know for certain.
On paper, I'd say the JZX, but enough to cover the price difference, which is better bang for your buck, so to say.
The Legacy is better bang for your buck easily, because the price is just that much cheaper, and you still get 280 horsepower.
I've had 3 of them.
And you've had 3
Just
of them.
saying.
And I used to drive, well, kind of used to drive one. I had a wagon version. But which one, like, this is a very good example of why you don't trust, like, numbers on paper. Because if you drive them back to back, you're going to think that the Chaser is a 3 or 4 times better vehicle than the Legacy, because it just is. The power is the same, 280 horsepower. The weight of the Legacy is actually less by about 50 kilograms or 100 kilograms. And so you would think that the Legacy is a better car, but the Chaser is, it's just better in almost every way. It feels better built, it holds up better to wear, the engine is better, the engine is faster, it's an inline 6, it's twin turbo, it's got more aftermarket support, the handling is way better, the steering feel is 3 or 4 times better, it's got more space inside, it's basically better in almost every way. Lots of cool cars there, hey? There's a Chaser, there was an R34, something else.
Looked like a BMW.
I didn't see that one.
Yeah.
And so, if you're looking to buy a car, see, a lot of people, when they're looking to buy a car, they're only looking to own one car. And even if one car is marginally better than another car by, for example, 20%, then it might be worth it to get that better car and pay the extra money. If you're looking for a bargain car, then certainly the Legacy is a better car to get. And so it really comes down to the type of buyer.
The nice thing about both of them is the flat 4 and the inline 6 are both self-balancing engines. They don't have a lot of extra vibration, so they are both smooth cars to drive, but by far the 1JZ, or no, is it a 2JZ in that
No,
one?
it's a
it's a 1JZ single turbo.
Yeah.
By far that'll be a much smoother, torquier engine to drive.
More reliable too.
Yes, I would definitely say that. Getting the same power output out of a 2.5 liter versus a 2 liter, yeah, you're gonna notice it have a little bit more longevity too.
And EJ20s are not particularly reliable engines. They're not bad, and a lot of people on the internet will trash them, but I think that it comes down to the driver more so than the inherent problems with the engine. But the 1JZ is known to be one of the most reliable engines that was made in Japan, in particular turbocharged engines. So,
yeah, really, it's just what suits your driving style and your budget. I would take the Legacy hands down.
get a Chaser. No, just save up and get a Chaser.
Well, if you need something that's usable all year round, if you live in a colder climate, the all-wheel drive in a Subaru is really hard to beat.
If we haven't been cut off already, I want to talk a little bit about the all-wheel drive in cold climates, because I come from Canada, and so does everybody in this car. Actually, Sarah was born in Canada too. A lot of people are like, "Oh, gotta go for the four-wheel drive in the winter." I'm not convinced that four-wheel drive in the winter is necessarily what you want, because the four-wheel drive, technically it's only two-wheel drive unless you've got differentials that will lock or LSDs in your front and your rear diff. But technically a four-wheel drive is only one wheel in the front and one wheel in the back is turning. And what this gives you is it gives you better go from a stop. So if you're stopped at a light and you need to go, it gives you more go. It doesn't help with anything else, and it doesn't particularly help with the way that people crash, which is when it comes to stopping. And so all the cars, whether it's rear-wheel drive, front-wheel drive, four-wheel drive, when you stop and you slide into another car, that's when you're going to get into an accident. Now, four-wheel drive might be a little bit better when you're accelerating through a corner, and I think that some people get into car accidents doing that, but that comes down to the driver's inexperience, and you really should know that when you're driving in the snow, don't speed up when you're turning. And I know this firsthand because I actually crashed a car doing that.
Yeah, it's a good point, Derek. It doesn't matter if you've got two-wheel drive, front, rear, four-wheel drive, whatever. If all four tires are locked up solid, it's going to come down to how much did you spend on your tires.
Right.
So don't skimp out on tires.
Absolutely. And if you haven't had a good set of winter tires, and what I mean by good is that you are in the first 20% of your life, because after the first 20%, the compound's different and the age of the tires is different and they're no longer useful. And so winter tires, even if you've got tread on them, you really need to be changing them. I just want to also, we're probably cut off now, I don't know, but when I was, I hope my old boss isn't watching this. Do you know this story?
Yeah, I was there for that.
Were you?
Yeah.
You weren't in the car though, were you?
No, I was at your place later that night though.
When I was just out of high school, before I went to university, I worked at a company called Booster Juice, and I used to drive the Booster Juice car, which was a TDI Golf.
Phone's doing things.
My wife says, hey. And there was like this much snow on the road, and the car had summer tires on it. And I was driving home, and I was all proud because I was only 18 years old and I was driving the Booster Juice car. It had big Booster Juice decals, or decals, and I don't know where we're driving at all.
We're going the right way.
And I saw my friends at the side of the road. Tristan was one of them. You know Tristan, right?
Yeah, he's in Japan now.
Is he?
Yeah.
Wow. And so Tristan was walking down, and I was right outside of the college, and I was like, hey, if I wave to my friends, they'll see that I'm driving this cool car, because this is a Mark IV Golf. It was a cool new car back then. And I was like, I rolled down the window, and I was like, hey guys, and then I needed to turn. I didn't realize that I wouldn't have any grip to go around that corner, and I drove.
You didn't have good tires.
And I didn't have good brains at that time too, and so I drove right into my my neighbor's fence, and I broke their fence. And then I didn't tell my boss that I crashed his car. There wasn't any damage on the car, but I still did feel really bad. And so if you're my boss of Booster Juice and you're watching this, I kind of doubt that you are, but I'm sorry I crashed your car and didn't tell you about it. And I finally got that off my chest after so many
True
years.
confessions. Right
Yep.
here.
Right.